After nearly 2 months of being in lockdown and in the depths of winter, you can't blame people for wanting to dream about a summer holiday. But the Transport Secretary slammed the brakes hard on that today.
Well, look, it's too soon now, I'm afraid to say, either domestically or internationally, not least because right now we're saying you can't leave your home unless it's for one of 5 specific reasons, and one of them is not going on holiday.
In this evening's press conference, that message was repeated.
I'm afraid it is just too early for people to be certain about what we'll be able to do this summer.
That advice hasn't gone down well among some senior Conservative backbenchers, as well as the new rules about returning from countries like Portugal in this advert on the so-called red list that could land you a 10-year jail sentence if you lie about where you've been. Labour's leader not impressed with this either.
I think what the government could do for families is to stop putting out mixed messages. So the Prime Minister one week was saying he's optimistic about holidays, then got the Transport Secretary saying don't book a holiday. That isn't helping businesses, it's not helping families.
Staycation plans in 2021, which may have re-energised the economy in places like Cornwall, seeming less certain then. The government are being accused by their own party of ripping out the goalpost on the timetable for easing restrictions. In better news for the Prime Minister, more than 13 million people have now had their first COVID vaccine. In Glasgow, this was the millionth person to get the jab in Scotland.
Absolutely delighted. You know, it's a good step forward and moving on and getting back to a bit of normality.
And the World Health Organization this afternoon backed the use of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine after issues had been raised about effectiveness.
And it was good to see the World Health Organization today confirm its support for the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine for use in everyone over the age of 18 and obviously everyone over 65.
Could my symptoms be coronavirus?
While holidays and vaccines may be on the minds of politicians, COVID symptoms are what some scientists are thinking about. This ad showing the original list, but 4 new symptoms revealed are chills, loss of appetite, headache and muscle aches. Those findings are based on the REACT study. Professor Paul Elliott is one of the authors.
What does this mean about the virus? Does it mean that the virus is changing? Is it getting weaker? Is it getting stronger?
So it's not that the virus has changed. It's just that we've accumulated a lot more information. This is on over 1 million people have been surveyed, and it's looking at their responses and seeing, you know, with a retrospective view, what are the symptoms that actually led to a positive test?
We've had relatively good news on COVID today. The government's chief scientific advisor saying most numbers are going in the right direction. But that still hasn't removed the uncertainty the virus brings. So booking your summer holiday still very much out of the question. The full roadmap of unlocking will not be given in England for at least 2 weeks.
Well, the senior Conservative MP Sir Charles Walker has strongly criticised Matt Hancock's plan to impose 10-year prison service sentences on people who try to evade quarantine rules, calling it utterly ridiculous. And he's accused the government of robbing people of hope. I spoke to him earlier and began by asking why he's so furious.
We were told that vaccines were the way out of this. We were told when Christmas was cancelled, celebrate your Christmas at Easter. Bring your family together then because the vaccines will allow that. And a lot of people have been holding on through the long winter months, looking forward to that date in Easter. And what the Secretary of State for Transport has done by telling people not even to plan their domestic summer holidays is to suggest unwittingly, or wittingly, I don't know, that perhaps lockdown is going to extend from the spring into the summer and beyond. And that is a terribly irresponsible thing to do, a terribly, terribly irresponsible thing to do with a very stressed out and exhausted nation.
I mean, could it be that actually the irresponsible thing to do was to tell people that things were going to be okay? You know,
No,
and that actually Grant Shapps might be being responsible by telling people, readjust your settings, you know.
No, we can't go on like this. We've got a vaccine. We've got a vaccine with high efficacy. There will always be new variants of coronavirus. That's what coronaviruses do. They evolve, and this will happen year after year after year. The current situation is absolutely not sustainable. It's not sustainable for people's mental health and emotional well-being. It's not sustainable for business. It is not sustainable in any way at all. The government needs to have its feet held to the fire on this. Now, I hope that Grant Shapps was speaking out of turn. I hope it was a mistake. I hope the Prime Minister reins him in.
But I mean, isn't the real issue that the government's communications has been all over the place from day one, because they keep trying to offer us certainties when they don't have them and they don't know?
The government is running a deliberate programme to scare people witless. So you've got people who are now frightened to leave their homes in case they get this virus that, by the way, most people recover from. And with a vaccine, will be far less severe than it is now for many people.
So are you saying we need to learn to live with a certain amount of death through coronavirus?
Of course we do.
Because that's a hard thing for you to tell Grant Shapps today, isn't it, when his dad is in hospital?
Christian, my father died at 46. Didn't expect the world to stop for me. I was very sad. The world went on. If we're going to start citing our own personal situations as a reason for doing something or not, we're getting into very dangerous territory. This isn't about what happened to me. It's not about what's happening to everybody in the cabinet. It's about the fact that millions and millions of our constituents are under an enormous amount of stress. And what we've done now today is perhaps rob them of that hope that was keeping them going. I'm really sorry, but I'm not getting into this game where somehow a death from coronavirus is different from a death from cancer or death from heart disease. We accept that 20-odd thousand people die from flu every year. We accept that 617,000 people die every year from old age, but somehow you're not allowed to die from coronavirus ever. We cannot cancel life to preserve every life.
What do you think about 10-year jail sentences for lying about where you've been on holiday?
Well, I think most people think it's utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. So we're going to cart off some 19-year-old to prison who's been a bit leery about a trip to Portugal. I mean, come on.
Does that kind of announcement actually then start undermining confidence in criminal justice?
I mean, it does make the Secretary of State for Health look ridiculous. I mean, it really does. We have all these alpha males running around this issue, just saying the first thing it seems that pops into their head without any thought for the repercussions it's going to have on millions and millions of stressed out people at the end of their tether. Okay, now I appreciate, I understand that hospitals are desperate places, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a nurse, obviously, but I am someone who gets a different perspective. People really struggling, people trying to hold on with their fingertips. And I'm really worried about them. They need human contact. They really do. They need something to look forward to.
So Charles Walker, thank you.